Hello, BookTube. Today we're going to be discussing the last shelf of the second bookshelf, and it's bookshelf number 5. We're going to start out with some Ken Follett, Pillars of the Earth. Pillars of the Earth was published in 1989 by Ken Follett, and it was, this one's the first edition. The publisher is William Morrow and Company in New York. Everything his readers expect from Follett is here. Intrigue, fast-paced action, and passionate romance. But what makes the Pillars of the Earth extraordinary is the time, the 12th century, the place, feudal England, and the subject, the building of a Gothic cathedral. So, Pillars of the Earth was a bit of a departure from Mr. Follett's, at that time, suspense novels. This one here is World Without End. Here are the end papers. Quite nice. See if you can see those. This book was published by Dutton in 2007. See the chapter headings have the little letter there. In 1989, Ken Follett astonished the literary world with The Pillars of the Earth, a sweeping epic novel set in 12th century England that centered on the building of a cathedral and the men, women, and children whose lives it changed forever. Although, and at last, they're talking about this novel now as a sequel that people have been waiting for. And at last it's here. Although the two novels may be read in any order, World Without End takes place in the same town of Kingsbridge, 2 centuries after the town's people finished building the exquisite Gothic cathedral that was at the heart of the Pillars of the Earth. The cathedral and the priory are again at the center of a web of love, hate, greed and pride, ambition and revenge. Now, what I understand, these are the only two I have, but I understand that this year, the third novel in this group is coming out. So I'll have to look into that. If anybody knows about it, let me know in the comments below. So getting away from the cathedral in 12th century England, this is Ken Follett's Jackdaws. Let's see, this was published by Dutton, and in this case it was published in 2001. This is the first edition. D-Day is approaching. They don't know where or when, but the Germans know it'll be soon. And for Felicity Flick Claret, the stakes have never been higher. A senior agent in the ranks of the Special Operations Executive, SOE, responsible for sabotage, Flick has survived to become one of Britain's most effective operatives in northern France. She knows that the Germans' ability to thwart the Allied attack depends upon their lines of communication, and in days before the invasion, no target is of greater strategic importance than the largest telephone exchange in Europe. Ken Follett, Whiteout. This one's also published by Dutton, and it was published in 2004. A missing canister of a deadly virus, a lab technician bleeding from the eyes. Tony Gallo, the security director of a Scottish medical school research firm, knows she has problems, but she has no idea of the nightmare to come. And then we have another series that Follett did. The third one of this is out, and I do not have it. The first is Fall of Giants. It's book one of the Century trilogy. See the end papers there. It's also published by Dutton, and in this case it was published in 2010. Fall of Giants is Follett's magnificent new historical epic. The first novel in the Century trilogy, it follows the fates of 5 interrelated families, American, German, Russian, English, and Welsh, as they move through the world-shaking dramas of the First World War, the Russian Revolution, and the struggle for women's suffrage. And then second in this series, Book 2 of the Century trilogy, Winter of the World. End papers. Again, published by Dutton. In this case, 2012. Winter of the World picks right up where the first book left off. It's 5 interrelated families, American, German, Russian, English, and Welsh, enter a time of enormous social, political, and economic turmoil, beginning with the rise of the Third Reich, through the Spanish Civil War and the great dramas of World War II, to the explosions of the American and Soviet atomic bombs and the beginning of the long Cold War. So that's Ken Follett. I do have others of his in the collection, but they're on a different shelf because they're part of a set, so we'll get to those. We're going to move right along here to W.E.B. Gryphon. This is the Men at War series. Here's Volume 1. The Last Heroes. Let's see here. The Last Heroes, it's June 1941. War clouds break over Europe, and determined that the United States will be prepared, Franklin D. Roosevelt and Wild Bill Donovan orchestrate the most complex espionage organization in history, the Office of Strategic Services. Young and daring, the hand-picked members of the OSS assemble under a thin camouflage of diplomacy and then disperse throughout the world to conduct operations upon which may hang the entire outcome of the war. And this was published by G.B. Putnam Sons, New York, and it was 1985. All right, now let's see which one is second here. I want to at least told us which one order it was, but no. All right, this is the 4th volume, so this is... it doesn't matter. I'll just read them and let you know what I have. The Secret Warriors, a Men at War novel. As the Secret Warriors begin, it's 1942. In Washington, D.C., the OSS under FDR and Wild Bill Donovan escalates its tactical war and plunges into worldwide covert operations. In London, a difficult exile, Charles de Gaulle, disrupts major invasion plans. It's up to the OSS to force the general's hands. Then, Fighting Agents, also part of the Men at War series. In Fighting Agents, it's 1943. In the Philippines, a ragtag American guerrilla army battles the Japanese under the most unusual commander. In Budapest, an agent must keep 2 prisoners from being interrogated by the Gestapo. His only choice, to rescue them or kill them. And I got a few more of them. Another Men at War novel by W.E.B. Gryphon, The Soldier Spies. As Soldier Spies opens, it's November 1942. War is raging in Europe. The invasion of North Africa has begun. In Washington, OSS Chief William J. Donovan finds himself fighting a rearguard battle against an unexpected enemy, the rival intelligence chiefs back home. In Morocco, Second Lieutenant Eric Volmar awaits in the desert for a car containing 2 top-level defectors, or will it be full of SS men instead? So this one was published by G.P. Putnam Sons, and it was 1986. Then these next two, they're W.E.B. Gryphon like the first ones are, but in each of these cases, the co-author is William E. Butterworth IV. This one's called the Saboteurs. Here are the 2 authors together. The Saboteurs was G.P. Putnam Sons, New York, and it is 2006. The Battle of the Atlantic is at its peak. Packs of German U-boats are hunting and sinking U.S. supply ships. Ships are burning at their moorings in U.S. ports, and a series of explosions has afflicted trains and train stations around the country. Is it all accidental, or is it sabotage? Then, again, by both men, double agents. Another Men at War novel. Dick Kennedy and his colleagues in the Office of Strategic Services face an even greater test: to convince Hitler and the Axis powers that the invasion of the European continent will take place anywhere but on the beaches of Nazi-occupied France. Wild Bill Donovan's men have several tactics in mind, but some of the people they must use are not the most reliable, are in fact most likely spying for both sides. So the deceptions require layer upon layer of intrigue, and all it will take is one slip to send the whole thing tumbling down like a house of cards. Are the OSS agents up to it? They certainly think so. So that was W.E.B. Gryphon, the Men at War novels. We'll move right along here on the same shelf to another set. These I picked up. I have not read. I picked up. I like the looks of them. I like historical action adventure, and these seem to fit the bill. So I'm actually looking forward to reading these. I think, let's see, H.N. Turteltaub is the author. Let's see here. Sort of handsome covers there. Over the Wine Dark Sea. It's published by Tom Doherty Associates in New York. And it is 2001. Let's see if I can read this. Rhodes, 320 BC. Hellenic traders dominate the eastern Mediterranean, from Italy and Carthage in the west to the Levant in the east. The great Alexander is 13 years dead, and his feuding generals gaze covetously at one another's portions of the empire. Amidst mounting tension, the trading city of Rhodes is prosperous and studiously neutral. So, the next one, Owls to Athens, also by Turteltaub. Let's see, Tom Doherty Associates Books, New York. Excuse me, 2004. The cousins Menendimos and Sostratos are preparing for a trading expedition to Athens. While philosophy-minded Sosostros is thrilled to return to Athens, Menendimos is both reluctant to leave his father's wife, Baucis, with whom he has fallen in love, and relieved to be removed from temptation. They stock up on luxury goods and rush to Athens so Sostratos can make it there in time for the great Dionysia, a parade and dramatic festival in honor of Dionysius. And then, finally, the third one is the Gryphon Skull. Gryphon Skull by H.N. Turtletaub, a Tom Doherty Associates book, New York, and this one is 2002. And Over the Wine Dark Sea. Oh, so that's sort of a recap. Okay, let's see. This is about the same two characters, Menendemos and Sostratos, two sea traders from Rhodes. From the smell of papyrus and ink to the thrumming of sail and the wind and the grunt of oarsmen, the details of life in a now-vanished world come alive again in this new novel, The Gryphon Skull, an epic of grand adventure and finely realized character. Sostratos, long and rangy, intellectual and curious, chases knowledge as ardently as his cousin chases women. Menendemos, nearly a perfect physical specimen as Alexander himself, is a headstrong man of the seas, his eyes unable to resist the veiled beauties around him, including his young stepmother, Baucis, whose voice and form he struggles to ignore. So they say in the back here that H.N. Turtletaub is a pseudonym of a well-known novelist who's also an accomplished historian of the ancient world. Be sort of fun to find out who that is. Now here, I have two novels by Archer Mayer, part of his Joe Gunther novel series in mysteries. Archer Mayer lives not too far from here, so we run into his books quite a bit. I like them. They're pretty good. This one here is The Second Mouse, published by Mysterious Press in 2006. A legend among Vermont cops, Joe Gunther has solved more local whodunits than a whole squad of detectives, but his latest case takes him and his team off their Brattleboro home turf 40 miles west to chip on its shoulder blue-collar Bennington. All right. And then Presumption of Guilt. I got a picture of Archer Mayer there. Presumption of Guilt here was Minotaur Books, New York, 2016. A skeleton is found encased in a concrete slab at a recently decommissioned nuclear power plant in Vernon, Vermont, a discovery that solves a 40-year-old missing person case. But a body doesn't end up buried in concrete by accident. Joe Gunther and his team of the Vermont Bureau of Investigation are given the assignment because this very cold case has now been reclassified as murder, and they're the only ones with the resources and ability to investigate. So a couple of Joe Gunther books by Archer Mayer. And then finally, the last two books. These have bunches of hers. Elizabeth Peters. A River in the Sky, and map there, Holy Land. This book was published by William Morrow, and it's 2010. August 1910, banned from the Valley of the Kings by the Antiquities Service, Amelia Peabody and her husband Emerson are relaxing at home in Kent, enjoying the tranquil beauty of summer, but adventure soon beckons when they are persuaded to follow would-be archaeologist Major George Morley on an expedition to Palestine, a province of the crumbling, corrupt Ottoman Empire and the Holy Land of Three Religions. Searching for vanished treasures of the Temple of Jerusalem, Morley is determined to unearth the legendary Ark of the Covenant. Elizabeth Peters, the author of these, she passed away a few years ago, I believe. She had a PhD in Egyptology from the University of Chicago's famed Oriental Institute. She was named Grand Master at the inaugural Anthony Awards in '86 and Grand Master by the Mystery Writers of America in 1998. She writes under another name, nonfiction, I believe. Her series are the Vicky Bliss series, the Amelia Peabody series, which I've mostly read, the Jacqueline Kirby series, and then some standalone novels. Alright. And then finally, the last book on this bookshelf. The Black Lizard Big Book of Locked Room Mysteries. Misery. The most complete collection of impossible crime stories ever assembled. Edited and with an introduction by Otto Penzler. Otto Penzler is fantastic at putting together these anthologies. He does it. This is the only one I have, but I've seen plenty of others. And yeah, here I'll give you a list of some of them. The Big Book of Christmas Mysteries, the Big Book of Ghost Stories, Zombies, 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 the Big Book of Adventure Stories, the Vampire Archives, Agents of Treachery, Bloodsuckers, Fangs, Coffins, the Black Lizard Big Book of Black Mass Stories, the Black Lizard Big Book of Popes. So Otto Penzler, whenever I see one of these, I pick it up. A Vintage Crime Black Lizard Original, October 2014. These are locked room mysteries. So it starts out with Edgar Allan Poe's Murders in the Rue Morgue, The Adventure of the Speckled Man by Arthur Conan Doyle. Let's see if there's any other thing. The Wrong Problem, John Dixon Carr. The Blind Man's Hood by Carter Dixon. Let's see. All right, The House of Haunts by Ellery Queen. The Borderline Case, Mary Ellingham. A Little House at Croix Rousse by George Simenon, or however you say his name. I actually like his stuff, but I've never been able to pronounce his name. French writer, but Belgian, I believe. The Bird in the Hand by Earl Stanley Gardner. I just give you an idea. I mean, this is a couple pages of the table of contents. They're not very long stories. That's the first page of the table of contents. But this is a fun book to dip in and out of. So that does it. That does it for that whole bookshelf. So our second bookshelf is complete, and we'll move on. Thank you, BookTube.